Last time we were seeing the rushing of the oversoul and the human soul into each other. We shall now take up the last section of the present canto of the finding of the soul. This is a unique experience in the yoga of Savitri, in the sense that after the discovery of a soul, after finding a soul, it is the divine soul who comes and dwells in the heart of Savitri. In fact, the ending of the previous section was something like this. Here, in this chamber of flame and light, they met. The soul and the oversoul. They met. The being who stood behind and the human portion of that being in this creation. They met. They looked upon each other, knew themselves who that human portion is, who the divine power is. The secret deity and its human part, the calm, immortal, and struggling soul. Then, with a magic transformation's speed, they rush into each other and grew one. That is their identity of the secret deity and its human part, of the oversoul and the soul, of the calm immortal and the struggling soul. It is they who are rushed into each other and become one. Even as Savitri experiences this oneness, she comes back to her waking consciousness, to the outward consciousness, and once more she was human upon earthly soil. After this identification of the soul with the oversoul, she is back to a human state. Once more she was human upon earthly soil. In the muttering night, amid the rain-swept woods, that is the earthly soil, muttering night and the rain-swept woods. It is in these conditions that Savitri had discovered her soul and had established the identity with it. And the rude cottage where she sat in trance, rude cottage, rough, roughly built hut where Savitri was staying with her husband and with his parents-in-law. And the rude cottage where she sat in trance, that subtle world withdrew deeply within, behind the sun veil of the inner side. Her inner side is closed and the subtle world has gone behind the veil. But now, while that experience of oneness with the divine soul, that oversoul of Savitri has sort of withdrawn, something else has happened in the case of Savitri. What has happened? But now the half opened lotus bud of her heart had bloomed and stood close to earthly ray. This is the transformation which has taken place in the case of Savitri. The lotus bud of her heart has opened out. The identification of the soul over soul is receding behind the scene, but something has opened out from her heart. But now the half opened lotus bud of her heart had bloomed and stood disclosed to earthly ray. In an image shone, revealed her secret soul. This is what she is now, her secret soul. There was no wall severing the soul and mind. The barrier is broken. No mystic fence guarding from the claims of life. In other words, it is the entry of the soul into her mind, into her life. That secrecy which is there, that is no more there. It has entered into her waking state. But now the half-opened lotus bud of her heart had bloomed and stood disclosed to the earthly ray. In an image shone revealed her secret soul. There was no walls severing the soul and mind, no mystic fence guarding from the claims of life. In its deep lotus home, her being sat, as if on concentration's marble seat. She is sitting on a marble platform, concentrating deeply within, and it is there she feels the lotus of her heart opening out. In its deep lotus home, her being sat, as if on concentration's marble seat, calling the mighty mother of the worlds. It is she who is being called in that place to make this earthly tenement her house. That is the concern. Savitri has taken again that human shape, mind, life are there. It is in that tenement that the mighty mother should come and stay and do her work. Calling the mighty mother of the worlds to make this earthly tenement her house. As in a flash from a supernal light, something is flashing from the heavenly source. From a celestial light, something is coming out, the divine light. As in a flash from a supernal light, a living image of the original power, a face, a form came down into her heart and made of it its temple and pure abode, so that original power is now seated in the shrine of Savitri, in the heart of Savitri. It has become a temple for that original power to come and live. But when his feet had touched the quivering bloom, even as that original power is coming down, and the moment it touched the feet of her heart, the feet, the moment those feet touched her heart, but when his feet had touched the quivering bloom, a mighty movement rocked the inner space, as if a world was shaken and found its soul. Out of the inconscient, soulless, mindless night, a flaming serpent rose, released from sleep. This is the impact of the coming of that original power. The original power is descending. It has touched the heart of Savitri. His feet have pressed themselves on it, and under the pressure of those feet, something else has happened. Out of inconscient, soulless, mindless night, a flaming serpent rose, released from sleep. The serpent, which was lying asleep all along, it got wakened up under the pressure of those feet, and started rising above. A mighty movement rocked the inner space, as if a world was shaken and found its soul. Out of the inconscient, soulless, mindless night, a flaming serpent rose, released from sleep all the energies which were lying until now dormant. They have suddenly become active. Active the moment the feet of that original power touched the lotus heart of Savitri. It rose, the serpent rose, billowing its coils, and stood erect and climbing mightily, stormily on its way, climbing up from step above step, and climbing mightily, stormily on its way. It touched her centers with its flaming mouth. One by one, the centers in the subtle body of Savitri are getting awakened as this Kundalini power is rising from below. It was lying asleep until now at the base center in the subtle body of Savitri. The original power has touched, wakened up that Kundalini Shakti, and it is climbing up now from one center to the next center, one above the other. As if a fiery kiss had broken their sleep of the centers. They bloomed and laughed, surcharged with light and bliss. Center after center are awaking. They are blooming out, they are laughing with energy, with light and bliss. Then at the crown it joined the eternal place. From the base center, from Muladhara, it is climbing up all the way up to the center above the head, Sahasrara, and there it is joining the eternal space. In the flower of the head, in the flower of matter space down below, in each divine stronghold and nature not. In the flower of the head, in the flower of matter space, in each divine stronghold and nature not Granthi. It held together the mystic stream which joined the viewless summits with the unseen depths. The streams which run through our nerves, Ida, Pingala, the mystic streams which are running through. It held together the mystic stream which joined the viewless summits with the unseen depths. The string of force that made the frail defense safeguarding us against the enormous world. Lucky that all our centers was closed at the moment. Otherwise, we would not have been able to bear the impact of cosmic forces rushing into them. It is only a great yogi, a great occultist, who can withstand the power of that Kundalini. It held together the mystic stream which joined the viewless summits with the unseen depths, the string of force that made the frail defense safeguarding us against the enormous world. Our lines of self-expression in its vast. An image sat of the original power wearing the mighty mother's form and face. What does Savitri notice? It is the image of the mighty mother herself who is seated within her. Our lines of self-expression in its vast, an image set of the original power, wearing the mighty mother's form and face, armed. What is that image? It is armed. It is the bearer of the weapon and the sign. She is carrying in her hand the weapon of conquest. She is holding the sign of conquest in front of her. Armed, bearer of the weapon and the sign, whose occult might no magic can imitate. Manifold, yet one, she sat, a guardian force, a protectress of the world. It is she who is seated there. It is she who is going to guard Savitri from the calamity. Manifold yet one, she said, a guardian force, a savior gesture stretched her lifted arm. Varadahasta. She is standing there. And symbol of some native cosmic strength. That is what she has got in her hand. Dasha Praharana. She is wearing 10 arms in her 10 hands. A savior gesture stretched her lifted arm, and symbol of some native cosmic strength, a sacred beast lay prone below her feet. It is the mighty luminous lion full of strength who is sitting at her feet. It is the divine Durga who Savitri is seeing seated in her soul. The original power, it is she now who is present there. A sacred beast lay prone below her feet, a silent, flame-eyed mass of living force. All underwent a high celestial change. Suddenly there is a change in Savitri. With that mighty power seated in her soul, there is a sudden change even in her physical. All underwent a high celestial change, breaking the blackened conscience, a blind, mute wall, effacing the circles of the ignorance. Powers and divinities burst flaming forth, each part of the being trembling with delight, lay overwhelmed with tides of happiness, and felt a touch in every limb and cell. In the country of the lotus of the head, which thinking mind has made its busy space, in the castle of the lotus twixt the brows, whence it shoots its arrows of its sight and will, in the passage of the lotus of the throat, where speech must rise and the expressing mind, and the harsh impulse run towards word and fact, a glad uplift and a new working came. The immortal thoughts displaced our bounded view. The immortal thoughts, earth's wrapped idea and sense, all things now bore a deeper, heavenlier sense. A glad, clear harmony marked their truth's outline, reset the balance and measure of the world. Last time we saw a living image of the original power seated in the heart of Savitri. A living image of the original power, a face, a form came down into her heart and made of it its temple and pure abode. The moment that original power came down as a result of that impact. Out of the inconscious, soulless, mindless night arose a flaming serpent, the coiled up energy which was lying asleep at the base of the things that got stirred, and it started rising, touching center above center. It rose, billowing its coils, and stood erect, and climbing mightily, stormily on its way. It touched her center with its flaming mouth. In the castle of the lotus, twixt the brows, whence it shoots the arrows of sight and will. This is what happens from the brow, the Ajna Chakra, when it opens out, then sight and will become active. Whence it shoots the arrows of his sight and will in the passage of the lotus of the throat, where speech must rise and expressing mind and the heart's impulse run towards word and fact. A glad uplift and a new working came. The immortal thoughts displays our bounded view. The immortal thoughts also drive idea and sense. All things now bore a deeper, heavenlier sense. A glad, clear harmony marked their truth's outline, reset the balance and measure of the world. The serpent has risen, and these three centers above the head, on the brow, in the throat, they have become active. Each shaped its occult design, unveiled God's meaning in it for which it was made, and the vivid splendor of his artist thought. A channel of the mighty mother's choice, the immortal's will took into its calm control our blind or erring government of life, a loose republic once of wants and needs, then bowed to the uncertain sovereign mind. Life now obeyed to a diviner rule, and every act became an act of God. That is how the life force has become now an instrument for the divine's work. In the kingdom of the lotus of the heart, love chanting is pure hymeneal hymn, made life and body mirror of his sacred joy, and all the emotions gave themselves to God. In the navel lotus's broad imperial range, down below the lotus of the heart, in the navel lotus's broad imperial range, its proud ambitions and its master lust, as if a fiery kiss had broken their sleep, they bloomed and laughed surcharged with light and bliss. Then, at the crown, it joined eternal space. In the flower of the head, in the flower of matter's base, in each divine stronghold and nature knot, it held together the mystic stream which joined the viewless summits with the unseen depths. The string of force that make the frail defense, safeguarding us against the enormous world. Our lines of self-expression in its vast, an image sat of the original power, an image sat of the original power, wearing the mighty mother's form and face. In the navel lotus's broad imperial range, its proud ambitions and its master lusts were tamed into instruments of a great calm stream to do the work of God on earthly soil. In the narrow neither center's petty parts, his childish game of daily dwarf desire was changed into a sweet and boisterous play, a romp of little gods with life in time. In the deep place where once the serpent slept, there came a grip on matter's giant powers for large utilities in life's little space. A firm ground was made for heaven's descending might. Behind all reigned her sovereign, deathless soul, casting aside its veil of ignorance, allied to gods and cosmic beings and powers, it built a harmony of its human state. Surrendered into the great World Mother's hand, only she obeyed her soul's supreme behest in the enigma of the inconscious world. A secret soul behind, supporting all, is master and witness of our ignorant life, admits the person's look and nature's rule. But once the hidden doors are flung apart, then the waking steps out in nature's front. A light comes down into the ignorance. Its heavy, painful knot loosens its grasp. The mind becomes a mastered instrument, and life a human figure of the soul. All happy grows towards knowledge and towards bliss. A divine fusion then takes nature's place and pushes the movements of our body and mind. Possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot of our thoughts and acts, she streams into us with her unbound force. Into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. An inner law of beauty shapes our lives. Our words become the natural speech of truth. Each thought is a ripple on a sea of light. Then sin and virtue live the cosmic lease. The struggle no more in our delivered hearts. Our acts chime with God's simple, natural good, or serve the rule of a supernal right. Well, this is the description of the descent of the transcendental power into the soul of Savitri. Center after center awaken to his presence. We have here the inrush of Mahakundalini in the various centers of Savitri's subtle body. The 7 centers in the subtle body are starting from below: Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Atnya, and Sahasrara. These are the ascending centers. In the traditional Kundalini Yoga, the serpent force rises from below and climbs up all the way up to Sahasrara. In the case of Savitri, there is a simultaneous movement. The moment the divine power touches her subtle body, there is the rush of the serpent force rising from below and touching the centers one above the other. The 7 centers are here above the head. We have Soham from the 1,000-petal lotus crown here. Soham. Then at the brow, Om. Then at the throat, Hum. At the cardiac center, Yam. At the navel, Ram. At the genital, Vam. And at the base, Muladhara is Lam. At the base of the spine. So we have Soham, Om, Ham, Yam, Ram, Vam, Lam. That is how the forces descend from above down below. Soham, Om, Ham, Yam, Ram, Vam, Lam. There is a yogic description about these 7 centers. Starting from below, we have got Muladhara. These 7 centers also correspond to 7 notes, 7 musical notes: Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni, Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si. The 7 notes correspond to the 7 centers in our subtle body. Thus we have, starting from below, at the Muladhara, Sa or Do. At the Swadhisthana, we have Re. At Manipura, Ga. At Anahata, Ma. At Vishuddha, Pa. At Ajna, Dha. And above the head, Ni. So we have got Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Dha, Ni. Again, Sa. Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Si. These are the 7 notes of the musical chord. Now, these centers, they are forts, they are knots, they are also described as lotuses, 7 lotuses. We have at the Muladhara a 4-petaled lotus corresponding to Sa, 4-petaled lotus, and the color of this lotus is crimson. Then Swadhisthana, we have 6-petaled lotus. The color is vermilion. At Manipura, there are 10 petals to the lotus, blue in color. At Anahata, the lotus is 12-petaled lotus, red in color. Vishuddha, 16 petals of the lotus, and they are smoky purple. At Ajna, there are two petals of the lotus, bright white, two petals. At Sahasrara, of course, it is 1,000-petaled lotus, gold in color. This is the yogic description of the 7 centers in the subtle physical of our body. Thus we have Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Ajna, Sahasrara, corresponding to 1,000-petaled here, brow, throat, cardiac center, navel, at the genital, and at the base of the spine. Now, at the base of the spine lies the serpent energy, always asleep. It is only by the Kundalini force that it can be wakened up, and it can then climb up center above center, going all the way up to Sahasrara. This is a tantric description of the sadhana of the inner world, and it is the occult power which is now becoming active in the physical nature also, in the subtle physical nature also. And it is that now which got established in the case of Savitri. The mighty mother, the divine force, has touched her heart, and suddenly the serpent force has become active. We have a description of the 7 centers in terms of the 7 suns of the supermind described by Sri Aurobindo. The 7 suns of the supermind he described as follows. The sun of supramental truth, knowledge power originating the supramental creation. Knowledge power originating the supramental creation, that is the sun of supramental truth. Descend into the Sahasrara Dala. It is that which descends into the 1,000-petaled lotus, Sahasrara Dala. The next is the sun of supramental light and will power, transmitting the knowledge power as dynamic vision and command to create, found and organize the supramental creation. Descend into the Ajna Chakra, the center between the eyes. Here. The third is the sun of supramental world, embodying the knowledge power, empowered to express and arrange supramental creation. Descend into the throat center. The fourth is the sun of supramental love, beauty, and bliss, realizing the soul of knowledge power to vivify and harmonize the supramental creation. Descend into the heart lotus. The fifth is the sun of supramental force, dynamized as a power and source of life to support the supramental creation. Descend into the navel center. The sixth is the sun of life radiances, power rays, distributing the dynamics and pouring it into concrete formations, descend into the penultimate center. The sun of supramental substance energy and form energy empower to embody the supramental life and stabilize the creation. Descend into Muladhara at the base of the spine. These are the seven suns, the supramental suns, which have to become active if there has to be the physical transformation. In the present context, Savitri is more concerned with the divine power, divine might, establishing itself in all the centers of activity in a physical body, in a subtle physical body, so that with that strength she can meet death and conquer death. In fact, for the purposes of physical transformation, perhaps there had to be more centers. There had to be in all 12 centers, not 7 but 12. 3 above the head and 2 below the feet, the subconscient and the inconscient, and the worlds of higher mind, of intuition, inspiration, revelation in the divine sense. These are the centers which had to become active. All the 12 centers had to become active, and then only there is the possibility of physical transformation. The mother's body, in her body, all these centers were open. They had opened themselves to the higher force and light. In fact, she says that in her body, all these suns were conscient right from her birth. All the suns were conscient in her physical body, in her subtle physical body, right from her birth. Her body was a specially prepared body to take up the work of physical transformation. The original power has entered into the subtle physical of Savitri. It has occupied center below center, and Savitri is now a different Savitri. It is the rush of Mahakundalini which has brought about this tremendous change in Savitri. She is in full possession of the power that is necessary to meet death. That may not be yet sufficiently strong to conquer death, but that is the necessary condition which has already got established in Savitri. The entry of the Mahakundalini is to establish the power, but at the same time there is the drag of the present human nature that also must go away. But before that, what is necessary is to fix up the divine Shakti, the consciousness force in the soul. And that is what has happened. The Almighty power, the original power has entered into the Ajna Chakra, and with that came a new and glad working. The whole nature is raised, a new and glad working. Thoughts became the martyr's thoughts. Things now started bearing, carrying heavenly sense. From Ajna Chakra, the power has entered into the Vishuddha, the throat center. And there, what is revealed is the meaning of God. God's meaning in it, for which it was made. The word, the power of expression or giving you form, it is that which is revealed. Man, the power has entered into the Vishuddha. Down below, as the power enters, immortal's will takes into control every action. There is a governance of the immortal. Life is governed by the divine power itself. At every act now becomes an act of God when it starts entering the heart, the anahata. In the kingdom of the lotus, the heart, love, chanting is pure, hymeneal hymn, made life and body mirrors of sacred joy, and all the emotions give themselves to God. A change has taken place in the anahata. Down below at Manipura were tamed into instruments a greater calm to do a work of God on earthly soil. When the power has entered the Manipura, now the center is ready to do God's work on earthly soil. Down below, at the nether centers, petty parts, at Swadhisthana, all was changed into a sweet and boisterous play. Down below, at the base, at Muladhara, where the serpent energy sleeps, in the deep place where once the serpent slept, there came a grip on matter's giant powers. Now the powers of matter are under its control. For large utilities, powers of matter under its control for what purpose? For utilities in life. A firm ground was made for heaven's descending might. Matter is now ready to receive the powers of heaven and express them in it. Behind all these centers reigned her sovereign, deathless soul. Savitri's deathless soul is what is governing behind all these centers. Casting aside its veil of ignorance, the veil of ignorance is now removed. It is no more there at all. And what is present there is the harmony. Casting aside its veil of ignorance, allied to gods and cosmic beings and powers, that soul, that power, that center, allied to gods and cosmic beings and powers, it builds the harmony of its human state. This is what has happened when the soul is working from behind with all the powers, all the centers charged with that power. It builds behind all reign, her sovereign, deathless soul, casting aside its veil of ignorance, allied to gods and cosmic beings and powers, it built the harmony of its human state, surrendered into the great world mother's hand. It has offered itself totally to the world mother. Only she obeyed her soul supreme behest. Savitri's soul is only accepting the command of that world mother. Surrendered into the great world mother's hand, she obeyed her soul supreme behest in the enigma of the inconscient world. Now the enigma of this world, of this inconscient world, of this puzzling world does not puzzle her anymore because she has surrendered herself totally now to the world mother. A secret soul behind, supporting all, is master and witness of our ignorant life. It is that now which has taken possession of things, admits the person's look and nature's role. It is a soul which allows the being to work here, allows the nature to work here. A secret soul behind, supporting all, is master and witness of our ignorant life, admits the person's look and nature's role. What the presence would like to do, what the power would like to do, it is that it allows now to do because it has surrendered itself totally to the world mother. But once the hidden doors are flung apart, then the veiled king steps out in nature's front. All along who was a witness Purusha, all along who was only the giver of sanction, that Purusha, he comes out and takes full possession of Prakriti. But once the hidden doors are flung apart, then the veiled king steps out in nature's front. A light comes down into the ignorance. Its heavy, painful knot loosens its grasp. The mind becomes a mastered instrument, and life a hue and figure of the soul. Such is the change which takes place when the veiled king comes out. He is now the master of nature, Purusha, lording over Prakriti. A light comes down into the ignorance. Its heavy, painful knot, the knot of ignorance, is loosened. The mind, which is an instrument of ignorance, becomes a mastered instrument in the hands of the divine power. And life, a human figure of the soul. In other words, every aspect of human personality has opened to the working of the presence which is there behind nature. But once the hidden doors are flung apart, then the veiled king steps out in nature's front. A light comes down into the ignorance. Its heavy, painful knot loosens its grasp. The mind becomes a mastered instrument, and life a hue and figure of the soul. All happy grows towards knowledge and towards bliss. It is all happiness, knowledge, and bliss. A divine puissance then takes nature's place. When the Purusha has come forward, then it is the divine Shakti who takes possession of all the activities of nature here. This is the tantric transformation which has taken place now in Savitri. The true Shakti has come out and taken charge of all the activities of the lower nature. Because the divine Purusha has come forward. A divine puissance then takes nature's place and pushes the movements of our body and mind, possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot of our thoughts and acts. She streams into us with her unbound force, that fusion, that Shakti, that Parvati. It is she who is constantly streaming through us. She streams into us with her unbound force into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. That is the tantric transformation which has taken place in the case of Savitri. The divine puissance is now taking charge of nature. A divine fusion then takes nature's place and pushes the movements of our body and mind, possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot, the divine fusions, she the beloved despot of our thoughts and acts. She streams into us with her unbound force into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. An inner law of beauty shapes our lives. That is the change. An inner law of beauty shapes our lives. Our words become the natural speech of truth. Each thought is a ripple on a sea of light. This is what happens with the transformation. Then, when that transformation takes place, when that transformation occurs, then sin and virtue leave the cosmic list. Cosmic list, the combatants field, where they constantly battle against each other, sin versus virtue. Then sin and virtue leave the cosmic list. They struggle no more in our delivered hearts, because the heart has been delivered to divine puissance. Our acts chime with God's simple, natural good, or serve the rule of a supernal right. This is what happens when sin and virtue leave the cosmic list. Sin and virtue, we have different signs, different types of sins, different types of virtues. They are not just ethical elements, but they are aspects of our subconscious nature. There are 7 Catholic virtues, 4 cardinal and 3 theological. What are the 7 virtues? Prudence, justice, temperance, fortitude. These are the 4 cardinal virtues. And the 3 theological virtues are faith, hope, love or charity. Love or charity. Prudence, justice, temperance, fortitude, faith, hope, love. Again, these 7 virtues are pitted, 7 vices, 7 evils, 7 sins. The 7 sins are lust, gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, pride. So we have got 7 virtues and 7 vices, and they constantly battle in our life. According to the Indian tradition, we have Shat Ripus, 6 enemies sitting within us. The 6 enemies are lust, kama, greed, lobha, anger, krodha, arrogance, mada, attachment, moha, covetousness, matsara, kama, lobha, krodha, mada, moha, matsara. These are the 6 enemies. And then there are, corresponding to them, 6 positive qualities also. The positive qualities are jnana, knowledge, bala, strength, aishwarya, royalty, virya, heroic nature, shakti, force, tejasa, fiery nature, jnana, bala, aishwarya, virya, shakti, tejas, against kama, krodha, mada, moha, matsara, lobha. These are constantly battling in our life. Gita also speaks of 6 types which we inhabit: serenity, self-restraint, austerity, purity, forbearance, and uprightness. These are the noble qualities which are present in us. In the 18th chapter of the Gita, we have these 6 qualities: Shama, Dama, Tapasa, Shaucha, Kshanti, and Arjava. Shama, serenity; Dama, self-restraint, holding back ourselves; Tapas, austerity; Shaucha, purity; Kshanti, forbearance; and Arjava, uprightness. These are the 6 qualities which a noble soul always has. In fact, conquering these evils, these vices, these sins is what Vishnu achieves in us. Vishnu, who is the conqueror of enemy. Shatrujit, one of the names of Vishnu is Shatrujit, who has conquered the enemy. These are the 6 qualities, 6 vices, 6 virtues. All of them are there in us in certain degrees. Both of them positive and negative, at the same time holding us back from the true reality of our nature, of our svabhava, our soul quality, and to bring out the soul quality of ours, the svabhava of the individual. It is the work of Vishnu. He becomes the conqueror of the enemy. He becomes Shatrujita. This is what has happened in the case of Savitri. Sin and virtue live the cosmic bliss. They struggle no more in our delivered hearts. Our acts chime with God's simple, natural good, or serve the rule of supernal right. The struggle no more. Shatrujita has come and conquered them. In the case of Savitri, it is the divine puissance which has entered into her soul, into her being. into her subtle physical centers and conquered all his enemies. Last time we saw that the divine puissance, when it takes possession of the nature, then everything changes. She pours her unbound force into us. The mortal's limbs. To them rush the rapture and power of the immortal. A kind of a tantric transformation of nature takes place. A divine puissance then takes nature's place and pushes the movements of our body and mind. Possessor of our passionate hopes and dreams, the beloved despot of our thoughts and acts, she streams into us with her unbound force. The divine puissance streams into us with her unbound force. Into mortal limbs, the immortal's rapture and power. That is what starts happening. An inner law of beauty saves our lives. Our words become the natural speech of truth. Each thought is a ripple on a sea of light. And when that happens, then sin and virtue leave the cosmic lists. They struggle no more in our delivered hearts. Our acts chime with God's simple, natural good, or serve the rule of a supernal right. This is the tantric transformation. All moods, unlovely, evil, and untrue, forsake the stations and fierce disarray. They abandon their places and hide the shame in the subconscious dusk. The power they are unable to bear, the divine puissance, and therefore they retreat into the subconscious darkness. Then lifts the mind a cry of victory when the outward nature, all the moods which are unlovely and untrue, when they retreat, then there is the cry of victory raised by mind. What is the cry? O soul, my soul, we have created heaven. Within, we have found the kingdom here of God, His fortress built in a loud, ignorant world. Yes, we have established now something which will not be attacked by the evil forces. Our life is entrenched between two rivers of light. We have turned space into a gulf of peace and made the body a capital of bliss. This is the cry raised by mind in that victory. That's the cry of victory. The two rivers, and between these two rivers is the landmass. The soul of the land, that is one river, who is mighty, who is righteous, who is supreme, and the other river is the bestower of blessings, bestower of blessings, and the soul of the land. Between these two rivers is entrenched our life here. Our life is entrenched between the soul of the land and the bestower of blessings. We have turned space into a gulf of peace. This is what happens. We have got Euphrates and Tigris. Between these two rivers is the Mesopotamia, the land between the two rivers. The land habited by the soul of the land, and the bestower of blessings. It is that in which life is entrenched, is caught, is present. Our life is entrenched between two rivers of light. We have turned space into a gulf of peace and made the body a capital of bliss. Capital of bliss. That is the ancient temple of Jupiter. So our body has become now the temple of bliss for the high God to come and live here, and made body a capital of bliss. What more? What more? If more must still be done, what is required? We have made our body the temple for God to come and live here. We are living in a land which is full of peace. We are entrenched between the two rivers of light, the soul of the land, mighty, righteous, supreme, and the bestower of blessing. What else is required? But in the slow process of the evolving spirit, in the brief state between death and birth, a first perfection stage is reached at last. What has happened so far is only the first step towards perfection. The divine presence has housed herself here. The inner law of beauty is shaping our lives. Words have become natural to speak truth. Our thoughts are ripples of light. But that is all only the first stage of perfection. We have to still go beyond that. Out of the wood and stone of our nature's stuff, a temple is shaped where the high gods could live. That is all that has happened. The high gods could live here in this temple. Even when that happens, even in a struggling world is left outside, one man's perfection still can save the world. That is what can happen. If that complete perfection is achieved by one man, it means that nature has fully accepted the law of truth, of light, of the divine presence, and it is that which can then work in this entire creation. Even if the struggling world is left outside, one man's perfection still can save the world. There is a new proximity to the skies. That is the perfection. You go closer to the higher worlds, to the sublimer regions, to the realms of good. A first betrothal of the earth to heaven. That is the first engagement of earth and heaven. This perfection, this reaching the skies is the first engagement of earth with heaven. The real engagement will happen when heaven comes closer to earth. One man's perfection still can save the world. There is one, a new proximity to the sky, a first betrothal of the earth to heaven, a deep concordat between truth and life. If there is a conflict between truth and life, that is removed. There is now a mutual understanding between truth and life. There is an agreement, there is a compact between truth and life, that truth can reside in life, that life can go by truth. A deep concordat between truth and life. A camp of God is pitched in human time. That is the first perfection. The first perfection stage is reached. It means that the camp of God is now fixed in human time. Human time, the evolving spirit now can move in the light of that is established here. What more, if more still be done in the slow process of the evolving spirit, in the brief state between a death and birth, a first perfection stage is reached at last. Out of the wood and stone of our nature's stuff, a temple is shaped where the high gods could live. Even if the struggling world is left outside, one man's perfection can save the world. There is a new proximity to the skies, a first betrothal of the earth to heaven, a deep concordat between truth and life. A camp of God is pitched in human time. That is what happens when the divine puissance is established in the soul. When into mortal limbs the immortal's rapture and power rush.